So the next thing you can do is texture customization, and this is pretty cool too. Let's continue working on the axe one. I like this axe. It's a little more cartoonish to me, but I love the look of it. It was also the first object made for this thing. So let's close the blend shapes and the animator and load up this texture here. So what we can do, if we want to get rid of the wireframe and control it here, go to our customizable files, load up that material. I like to work at full resolution, but if you want, you can actually scroll down to the bottom and make this a smaller resolution. I think by default they're going to be set to 512. I often will bring it up to 2048 or 2K just to see. We can actually see the difference here. There we go. So now you can see the difference. Obviously, it takes longer to load, but if you're going to use close-ups, then you definitely want to see it in 2K. It does take longer to manage, though. So this is the procedural material. Let me close all these. Each weapon has basically the same setup. We've got this main section here where it has a damage blend. So you can shift between that to see the undamaged and the damaged version. Oftentimes it's somewhat subtle, but there's going to be more dents and cracks and stuff in it. And you can scroll between just to mix the two to get the look that you're looking for. If this is not enabled, you need this enabled to change any of these main sections. So like the blade, the handle, all these sections. Once we get to ground dirt, those each have their own enabler down there, and these environment aspects are common to all of the objects, but these rest are all unique. So on the basic premise is that here's the outer blade. We can actually change the hue, bring up the saturation so we can see a little bit more. So this is obviously probably not something you're going to use in-game, but that's, just an idea. You can bring up the hue a little bit, change the lightness around and the contrast. Again, if you have the smaller resolution, this is actually a little faster. Let me actually bring that down a little bit. We'll bring it back down to 512 just for demonstration purpose. There we go. But now when we do the scrolling, it will be a little bit snappier. There we go. So we can see our changes more. So you can do that. You can also add an overlay color, which is this overlay blend here, and just adds a basic color to the material. So if you bring the saturation down, now we just got like a red metal, and you can actually change this, of course, to any color that you'd like. Whatever makes sense for your game and the look you're going for. And this is only going to affect the outer blade. You can actually do the middle blade too. So here we have this that strip right there. Bring that here, maybe up the lightness a little bit and down the saturation. And then we've got the inner blade, which you can guess where that is. There we go. So there's a lot you can do with that, and you can change all the other aspects as well. And then we get down to the environment stuff. We have ground dirt. This is going to be dirt from the ground up. So if we bring up the height, you can see it coming up right there. From the ground up, it's the dirt. Bring the roughness up. So if you have something laying in the ground or something like that, that's a good way of adding that. I've got a dirt color. I really like this darker color. And you can turn it off and on with a simple toggle. If you're not going to use it, just keep it off. It makes it a little bit faster to load everything. Ceiling dirt's the same, but from above. So top down. And then we'll turn that off. And then directional dirt, we'll skip surface dirt for a second, is just like the other two, but you can actually choose which direction it comes from. So in this case, Z inverted will be the tip. So you can actually bring that out, maybe bring the level down and the contrast down a lot. And I don't know, what does blood look like? A little darker. Certainly it's more rough. So now for a little dried blood look, you can go for that. If you click the masked metal, that's what I'm looking for. There you go. Without masked metal, then the metal value will still be considered metal. If it masks metal, then it means it's not a metal, and it will reflect more like wet liquid. So now we've got bloody axe. And I'm going to bring down the level a little bit more so it's not quite as bloody. There we go. So we'll keep that. Surface dirt is going to be dirt from the middle out. I'm going to bring this up to something obnoxious like a hot pink or a purple. Enable that and bring up the edge dirt, and go in a little bit, and then the amount here, and there we go. We'll see it coming in from the edges on out. Eventually it'll get to the whole thing. So I like to do it in hot pink because it's easier to see where we are. I wanted to get like this little dirt where it's all the edges are filled with dirt, and then the surface starting to get dirty as well. Make that roughness pretty rough here. The higher the roughness, the less reflection it will be, so it'll be more like wet. You don't want to go to the extreme, so I'm going to bring it up to about 0.8. Doesn't really matter. Not too nitpicky, and use my dirt color there. And now we've got the dirt, and we can turn this on and off to see the difference. So it really just brings the little, real life look into the design. So damages, we can enable damages, whether it's mass only is 1 or metal only is 1, otherwise take that off. Bring up the wear level. Now this one's a little hard to see by default as well, so what I like to do is take this lightness all the way up, and then you can start really seeing the difference as you bring the wear level up and down. There you go, so you can see it there. That's the wear level. So we don't want the brightness all the way up, but we do want some nice low wear. So what we're going to do is bring the brightness back down, the lightness back down. Keep it, you can bring it darker if you want, but I like to bring for the wear a little bit up from 0.5. 0.5 is no change. Bring the saturation down a little bit more, and the roughness down to make it look like the rough parts are or the weared out parts are shinier. Maybe we'll bring up the lightness a little bit more. And now let's see our differences. We can just toggle this on and off, see the change. So there we go, that's a cool look. It's nice and damaged. We have more stuff: fabric wearing, leather weathering, metal weathering. There's a lot you can do with this. There's some special effects that might come in handy. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. Snow, for instance, is just covers the whole thing with a layer of snow or moss. If you're looking to put this out in the field somewhere, that could come in handy. But I don't think many people are going to be using that. The rune is a cool thing. If you enable this and have a custom rune mask, it's just a black and white mask, where is it? Custom mask right here, black and white mask. Base it off one of these. You can actually add a symbol or something on the object if you'd like, and you can use a custom material if you want, or a default metal or non-metal material right here. And then we've got these custom textures that you can add as well. So I wanna get into this now, and this is kind of powerful. So it's somewhat important. It takes a little bit of time, but it's very powerful, and we get this whole box up here to play with as well. So we've got the axe here, and we've customized it, adding dirt, damage, and some blood, and that's really cool. But I want to change it out even more, and that's completely possible with the system. So we're going to load up our palette here. That's this box, and it's got 16 slots for materials, different what you can call base materials that you can use. It's going to take a minute to load, apparently. There we go. Each one of these, it's got the default settings, just like you saw down here for the different adjustments you can make per material. The same for the environments, and then these custom materials down here. This is what we're going to populate. If it's not already populated, and I'm not sure if it will save this when I submit it to the asset store. If it's not populated, you're going to want to populate these. We're going to use for this demo the base materials that we have already created. So it's going to be in the exported materials, base materials. We've got gold and metal 1. So these 4 maps are just going to go in our albedo, metal rough, and you can see the name right there. So metal rough, and oops, this is metal rough. Ambient occlusion, and the normal. Now, one thing to know about the normal is it has to be set as a texture. It cannot be set as a normal map for this system. Sometimes Unity will ask you to change it to a normal map. Don't let it. You want this to be set as a texture. Going back to the palette, you can already see that material right up here, and you can see it reflecting the sunlight and all that stuff. And we're going to add the second material, and we're going to use this metal 1. So just bring this down. This is the only setup you really have to do. Ambient occlusion, metal rough, and normal. And the only setup you have to do, because you can actually save this as a prefab. Just click the apply button here. It's actually already saved as a prefab. The palette is just to click on the main weapons and armor. This is the prefab, and this is the texture we're working with as well. So now we've got our 2 materials there, metal it looks great. The gold looks great. So let's look at our axe here. Now, you could have done that process with the axe, just scrolling down to the down here. You could add those right here to the custom outer blade, those maps, and then go up to the top and click the use custom texture button, and it would replace, you know, the outer texture with whatever texture you have. But that's tedious. It takes a long time. So I've created this copy this to that script, which does a pretty good job of speeding all this up. There's a lot to look at here, but hopefully it makes sense. I'm kind of working on a node-based version. I think that would be a lot better, but for now, this is what we got. We've got our palette up here, and different material numbers that correlate to these numbers, 1 and 2, and so on, and the different sections. So for Axe 1, which is what we're going to deal with, material 1 is our gold, material 2 is our metal. We can copy each of these to these sections, individually or as a group. So I'm going to do it individually because I don't want to copy the entire thing. If I did, I'd just preset all these and then click the copy actions, and I'd be set. But instead, I'm going to only copy a few. So the outer blade, I want that to be material 2. The middle blade, I'll make material 1. Outer blade, material 3. Let's copy those. So this is the outer blade, and then the middle blade, and the inner blade. Oh, material 3. Make sure you got the right material selected. I had the wrong one selected and it ended up looking wrong. There we go. So already it's looking different. But let's say I do want to do the whole thing, just replace all of these with just these two materials, which is alternate gold. And so let's go to the spike will be material 2, pole material 2, support material 2, support highlights will use the gold, shaft will be material 2, handle material 2, handle highlights will use the gold, shaft rings will use the gold, the pommel and the will be gold, and the pommel screw will be metal, and then click this copy all actions. Now this will take a little bit longer because it's going to actually copy all of these, which is it's just going to take a little while. Alright, so now we've got the axe with just a two-tone system. We can adjust it more. If we have more materials, you can actually adjust it more. So let's go ahead and do that, because while as much as this two-tone system is interesting, it's not, I don't like it. I'm sure you don't like it as much as the other one. So let's add more materials, and we can do that. So if you go to our base materials folder here, we've got all these different materials here. You can load them up and see what they look like right here. Let's look at the copper. There we go. It looks dark. I'm not sure why it looks dark. Let me make sure it's set properly. You can use that reset in the top right corner. I'll reset all to the default values. Alright, so that looks right, and it looks right here. So I'm going to take this one, and I'm just going to export this. I'm going to use this feature up here called Export Single Material. It's a hotkey for it as well. So brush copper, and we're going to call this base material copper. We're going to remove the emissive height, and we're not going to set the normal map mode, because remember, these need to not be normal mapped. And we're going to merge with the group name. If there's more base material coppers, we'll just merge with that so that we don't replace it. Alright, now down in our exported materials, we have base material copper. We've got our textures right here. So we can actually remove this material altogether, and if we wanted to, we can bring these textures up one level, since we know we're just going to be using it as a base material. One other thing we can do, if you bring it up in your Finder or on your desktop, these maps are actually 16.8 megabytes because they're targets. We can actually change those to PNG without losing quality, and it compresses them down to 6.4 megabytes. So I suggest doing that. It saves disk space on your computer. After a while, 100 megabytes or what is that, 80 megabytes, 60 megabytes per material can add up. So I like to do that at the start. And now I'm going to just move this over here so we can use it, and that'll be in the package as well. And now we go up to our palette, and we can just add that as well to custom material 3. There we go, and now we have a brushed copper. Doesn't quite look right. Why is that? There we go, that's weird. I don't know why it took so while to load, but it took a while to load. No idea why. Anyways, okay, so now we've got the copper up there looking good, so we could use that. I'm going to make a few more of these using the same pattern. I'm just going to speed up the video for it though. Alright, I already added everything. Material 8 though, it's not showing up here, and that's because I haven't clicked this Use Custom Texture button. So if I do that, this stylized ice will show up. There we go. So now we've got 8 different materials to choose from. This is an ice, a stylized ice, some gems, leather, a little more metal. So let me go back to my, copy this to that, and look at our Axe 2 here. Let's adjust some stuff here. There we go. So now we've got the new look here, with leather down here. And if you notice, since we copy the highlights are more hidden. Copper, leather, gold, and you know, I think I want to rearrange the order here. So this is the pole, I believe. So I'm going to make the pole material 2. And the outer blade material 4. So let me just copy those 2 actions. You may notice in the status bar there's the rebuilding texture section. If you don't want to do that, you can unclick the save changes, and then when you update something, so let's do the pole again, make that back into material 4, copy that. It will happen much faster. The problem is if you quit Unity, these changes won't be saved. So only uncheck that if you're willing to take the risk that you might lose your data if it crashes or something like that. So the last thing I want to do is the middle blade. I want to change that to the copper. So we'll copy that over. Now I'm happy with this. I think it looks pretty good. You know, we could also play with it more, but you may have noticed that the environment changes we made disappeared, and that's because our palette environment. When we copy all actions, it copies all of them, including the environment. So we're going to have to redo our environment, and I wanted to show you that because as a warning, just a heads up that in the end, if you're going to do environment specific to each object, do that after you've got your object set with the different custom textures from the palette, if you're going to do that. So let's go back, and I'm going to speed up the video while I adjust this again. Alright, so I made some minor adjustments to the look as well, just bringing down the lightness of a few things and adding a slight color change for the handle highlights. So now we've got a more fleshed out weapon here, and since I think less people are going to actually want to use the blood, I'm actually going to turn the directional dirt off, just so more people can use the default. I'm going to include this in the package. So there we go, and I'm going to save this now. To save, you do the same thing. You can do this export material. You can just drag this down if you've got the window open. We're going to call this Axe001, and we are going to remove emissive and height. We are going to set the normal map mode this time because we're going to use this in-game. Click the export material, and it's now in our exported materials under Axe001. Again, let's just reveal this in the Finder. I'm going to make these a PNG. You don't have to. It won't affect your game at all. It just affects your own system. And then the only problem with doing that is then you do need to reset the material. The script, clicking that export material, will actually set up this material with the right textures. But since I just changed the format, I do need to reset these into their appropriate spots. And then since I set the normal map, I need to click Fix Now to set that as a normal map mode. And so now we've got our texture that's ready to go, and you can just bring that on there. The slight difference is mostly from the height change, the height map. These does not have a height map. And that's a game-ready texture. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to undo that, save that, keep that back. I'm going to move these down here to my Axe1 file, and oh, I moved to the wrong one. The game ready files, axes. So move the material and the texture down to the game ready Axe1 file. Oh, I'm going to call this alt. Should have called it alt because there's already an Axe1 material in there. There we go. So now we've got two materials to use, the default and the alt. If we bring up the default in here, we can compare the two. Compare and contrast. There we go. So very different look. Depending on your game, this might be a better look. It might be a worse look. You can change the roughness values if you want it a little less shiny and all that, make it look more old, add more dirt, do whatever you want to it. There's a lot you can do with this system to customize the weapons. Once you get the hang of it, it really doesn't take that long. And it really, I hope, adds a lot of value to your game. When you're ready to reset things, if you'd like to reset things, I'm going to do right now, go back here, click this top right button, just click the reset. There you go. And so if you want to keep things organized, I'm going to delete this from the exported materials. We've got all our base materials. Our exported meshes, I'm going to move those down to the game ready files as well. And then I'll delete this from the exported meshes. Make sure you don't accidentally delete the wrong thing. And then in our game ready files, you'll now see this look right here. So we've got our Axe1 and our Axe alternative axes. We'll bring all of those in. Let's bring it over here. There we go. Different shapes, and of course you can easily just drag on this alt material to any of them or all of them and make a completely different look than you had originally. So a lot you can do. That's just one of the weapons. There are, of course, 30 objects, and almost all of them have mesh morphing, and all of them have texture customization. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. I hope it wasn't too boring, and I hope that if you followed along on your own system, you got the hang of using this palette system to basically create brand new looks. One thing to note with the palette, if you do think like this gold is just too damn shiny, you can adjust it on the palette level by adding, going to the gold here. You can say, okay, I'm going to shift the roughness so it's a little less shiny. Let me get the right look so you can see. Okay, so we see all the shiny now. You can adjust this and make it more or less shiny. And it takes a minute to load. You can get the look you want here so that when you copy them to your objects, especially if you want to use the same metals over all of them, you don't have to go and reset it down here. You can set at the palette level if you'd like. So there you go. If you have any questions, let me know on the forums. Also, check out the medieval battle sounds. You can find it on the Unity Asset Store and also on infinitypbr.com. It's got a whole bunch of sounds that are all layered and randomized and customizable for all the different weapons and armor you can think of. So it's a great audio package if you're looking to add, AAA quality, real life recorded, fully audio. All of it was recorded for this package, so it's very unique, very custom to this, and it works really, really, really well with these weapons. All right, have a great day, everybody.